Hi, this is John Cottle, HIUS 713, American Entrepreneurship since 1900. I am today talking a defense of my research project, which was on Andrew Carnegie, and specifically I was looking at his philanthropical ventures and examining them and trying to see if there was a connection back to his childhood or what motivated him to do the donations the way he did, especially with the large sums of money that he donated away. In that, I discovered some good things and some bad things because some of it's so complex. I realized that there was more problems that I would still have to investigate. Um, do I plan to do it as my dissertation? I do not know at this point in time, but it was very interesting and very intriguing to read what I was reading. But on to the discussion here. What I was looking at and looking for was what was his motivational factors. I studied a little bit on him and looked at what happened in his younger age and everything else. And he went to school until he was 12 years old. But because in the industrial age, his dad ultimately lost his job for all practical purposes, and they moved to the United States. So some of the sources that I used after that began to challenge me to look differently through other lenses to include his own lens. Many of the major resources that I used were of his writings. Andrew Carnegie wrote a book called The Social Gospel of Wealth. Very interesting read. In some ways, telling. Then there was another book about his own autobiography he wrote. He wrote that, and he wrote Empire Business, and several other books specifically focusing in on the business aspects of everything. And what was interesting, even one of the other things he wrote was a Carnegie anthology, which was almost like a calendar of days, and you would have a reading each day. And it was challenging you to think on the business aspect of things. Some of the other authors I've read that were part of the primary sources include F. Emerson Andrews on philanthropical giving, Bernard Alderson on Andrew Carnegie, the man and his work, and even Educational Intelligence, which was written by W.T. Carrington back in the back in 1906. And each of them sort of presented Carnegie as a very complex man. That was an interesting point, that because I think sometimes we try to simplify everybody instead of looking at the complexity. But they also some of the authors, citing each other sometimes, stated he was a contradiction in his work and everything he was doing, philanthropical or whatever. He was sort of a man of contradictions because you think he'd go one way one minute, and all of a sudden he's going in a different direction. I investigated several things, and I do believe some of it came from his childhood, especially the education side and especially the libraries. There was a Colonel Anderson who was in Pittsburgh and allowed Carnegie access to his books in his library. And that started the whole drive for Carnegie himself. It was a very interesting read, very interesting article. And I was just trying to say, wow, this is so cool that maybe everything is still driven, even then, back to his childhood. Which means, does that say his faith made a place? A lot of people dismiss his faith, but I still say there was something in there. That's probably why I would like to research this further. My conclusions were that, and I think if I had more of an opportunity to look at his religious upbringing, which was very scant, even in his own autobiography, he mentions it, but that's it. I think it would be very interesting to see where it goes. Thank you very much for allowing me this time. Take care.